Every 2 years, a race for prototypes that competed at the 24 Hours in the 1980s and 90s is held at Le Mans. The 2014 edition of the Legends Group C event saw over 25 cars return to their spiritual home, including a 1989 Aston Martin AMR1 piloted by Caterham Motorsport LMP2 driver Tom Kimber-Smith.
It's through a guy called Paul White who owns the car. I raced with him a couple of years back. He called me early on this year, and at the time I said, yeah, that would be brilliant. It's been one of my dreams to come drive one of these cars, and luckily enough I can do it this year.
One of only 5 AMR1s ever built, the car was developed by Aston Martin in 1989 and competed in the World Sports Prototype Championship and the 24 Hours of Le Mans that year. The car is now looked after and raced in Europe by a dedicated team from Damax Racing who specialise in bringing privately owned classics back to the track.
We look after mostly historic race cars. We specialise in Group C cars from this era, and we're hoping for a reasonable result.
Kimber-Smith is a regular at the Circuit de la Sarthe, having accumulated 3 class wins in the 24 Hours. But racing the Aston was all about the experience, not extra practice for his Caterham drive in the big race.
As it's not my car and I think it's worth quite a lot of money, it's to bring it back in one piece. But like I said, it's just to have a lot of fun and to showcase these cars today.
Well, Le Mans is just a special event. The track is brilliant. It's very hard on the cars and the drivers.
For all the fans here, it's great to see these old cars back here because as a kid I can remember watching these cars here, and it's great to see them back.
Compared to the modern prototypes, the AMR1 falls short in certain areas. The brute speed from the Aston Martin V8 engine and an innovative aero design made the classic a leader in its day.
You've got to remember this is 25 years old, so it's got a manual gearbox, no ABS, no paddle shift, well, it has got power steering actually, but you wouldn't know it was on.
The challenging thing in this is how hot it is inside the car, how old some of the stuff is, so it's quite a different technique. It's an H-pattern gearbox, where in the P2 car it's a paddle shift, so there's a lot more action inside this car. This
was one of the very first cars with the proper aero on it, so that the air flows through the bodywork as well as over the top of it.
These cars are a lot quicker in a straight line compared to the P2 formula at the moment, a lot more power.
It uses an Aston Martin engine. It sounds glorious.
Most of the grid in the Group C race were owner drivers, with just a handful of pros lining up alongside them. Kimber-Smith and Ward were determined to get the AMR up front, stay out of trouble and try and grab a place on the podium.
The Group C race, there will be some proper racing, especially at the front, but all the way down the grid everyone can have their own dice. And the cars are quick, they're nearly 200 mile an hour on this circuit, or some of them are over 200 miles an hour. We'd like to be on the podium. I mean, a third would be brilliant for this car.
Come Saturday morning, the sun was warming up the crowd, getting ready for the 24 Hours as the Group C event got underway. The race was scheduled to run for 45 minutes or 10 laps, whichever arrived sooner, with a compulsory 2-minute pit stop included during that time. Kimber-Smith got off the line well and was up front for most of the race, eventually finishing in a respectable second place behind the super-fast Mercedes.
We had a great start and managed to get up to P2 straight away, but we just didn't really have the top-end speed that the Sauber Mercedes has. So, as soon as I found out that we couldn't really be that competitive, we just settled for second and brought the car home. It's a unique experience for me. I've always wanted to drive one of these cars, so it's been just great fun and a massive privilege.